right, so here we go.
Okay, and it's working good. Okay.
Sure if you knew this, but Automotive holds so much opportunity. Once you get your foot in the door, you will fall in love with Automotive. And the sky is the limit, unless you believe there are footsteps on the moon. The path to success is tough, but so are you. So pull up a chair yourself. Find a mentor and a coach. Take the initiative. If a role doesn't exist in your company, create it. Get uncomfortable. Are you working to your full potential? No job is unattainable. Get out of your own way. No one can tell you you can't but yourself. Don't count yourself out.
Just because you work for someone else doesn't mean you're not a business unto yourself.
Don't be afraid of anything.
Don't let anyone tell you that you don't belong here. If you don't see someone in leadership like you, become that someone, and you'll inspire the next generation to be
General Manager,
CEO,
Executive at General Motors.
I am a champion, and so are you.
I'm worth it, and so are you.
I am capable, and so are you. I belong here, and so do you. Hard work, determination, strength, a tribe who has your back,
Supporting each other.
passion, crushing it,
A do not quit attitude.
perseverance, confidence, tenacity, courage, moxie, fortitude,
Assertive.
Dedicated.
dynamic,
Entrepreneurship.
empowerment, uncomfortable, ambition. So join us, because you are the next. And we will help you get there, because we are.
So the short video is from, I think it's womenandautomotive.com. You can look them up on YouTube. It's a group specifically, I think, for women. I was pretty impressed with the video, but also just the dynamics of it. And of course, we got to start with George. So here we go.
George Sandler, Stoville, Toyota. I'm going to give away a secret, everybody. I'm going to let the cat into the bag. I'm going to show you my ace out of my sleeve. There it is. Are you ready for this? My special gentleman out in the way, way west, in the wild, wild west. My man Ian, my man Jeff, the AutoHub show people. These gentlemen are all about the customer experience. They're all about mentors. They're one of my mentors, people. Gentlemen, Ian, Jeff, you're truly one of my mentors. You're mentors to me and hundreds of people across the car business, from the East Coast, the West Coast, the North Pole, the South Pole. I've been on your show all the way from Greece. Gentlemen, you're looking for the best of the best in the car business. You're looking for the best show in the business. The AutoHub show. The man Ian, the man Jeff. One man, one place. George Sandler, Stoville, Toyota.
Just so you know, George does those in one take. Every single one he does. A couple great books. One of my personal favorites, Kim Scott, Radical Candor. If you're not familiar with Kim, highly recommend her book. Really a good way to manage people by basically having two-way open communication, taught at Google's headquarters and also at Apple, and a lot of really good information there. Also, Girl Stop, that was one of Jeff's picks, and then Between Grit and Grace, which is actually the art of being feminine and formidable, which I thought was really interesting as well. But go ahead, Jeff.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending the AutoHub show. And before we get started, we always cover in the covereth thy behind part, the disclaimer, which of course is the views and opinions expressed here. Those are our guest speakers and attendees or audience, and don't reflect the official policy of the AutoHub show. And just so you know that, and we do, if there is anything sometimes that comes on not right, it's okay. So today our topic is female leadership in automotive, and we have some extremely dynamic guests today, some ladies that unfortunately have joined us from the center of the universe of Canada, which is Toronto, and the real center of the universe is somewhere in the New York area, and in Jackie. So hopefully you're still there. So thank you for attending. I'm waiting for there we go, my producer to put the next slide up.
That's it.
That's it. Okay, there we go. So thanks again. Hello, Barry, Christine. Thanks for joining us. We have us here joining us today is Jackie Grillo from Blue Book, Kelly Blue Book, excuse me, because I know I'd get in really trouble. She is the Director of Sales Northeast for Kelly Blue Book. Thank you so much. And I guess like everything now they have to say it Cox Automotive. So thank you so much for joining us. We have Nicole, how do I pronounce your name right? Pereira?
Good. We'll stick with that.
Okay. Nicole from Cambridge Honda and the sprawling metropolis of Cambridge, Ontario. And my old pal Cheryl Milani from Cummins Performance Group somewhere in Toronto area, but I call it from under my stuff is the Cheryl Milani Inc. because she's literally got her hands in everything. So, ladies, thank you so much. Jackie, could you just take a moment and just tell us about yourself?
Sure. Again, Jackie Grillo from Kelly Blue Book, part of Cox Automotive, and I have been the Director of Sales here in the Northeast. I cover about 13 states, ranging from DC over to Cleveland and up through the Canadian border, all the way up to the tippity top of Maine. And I've worked for Cox Automotive for about 9 years now. And prior to that, I worked with a lot of automotive dealers in a traditional and non-traditional media space. I worked for the Walt Disney Company, and I worked for WEEI.com, which is breaking sports news up in New England. And I'm really happy to be here today. And this panel is awesome. And thank you guys so much for having me. I am a member of that Women in Automotive that you played the clip for earlier, in a sense that I've attended at least one of their conferences every year for the last 5 years prior to COVID. And it is definitely a great space for women in this industry to be. So I fully love and endorse that group of women and get so much out of that conference every year as well.
Terrific. Thank you for being here. And I have to say, every time I've watched that, I keep Googling people because I'm sure there's celebrities in there, and then it turns out there are celebrities in our world. Cheryl, please tell us a bit about yourself. And again, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. We figured it had been a long time, but I'm with Cummins Performance Group. I've been working with them for about 8 months as VP of Business Development. As you alluded to, I've got my fingers in a few things. I've got ownership in dealer intelligence. I'm a partner in Auto Verify. I started off as a technician actually in the industry and worked my way through. I ran an 8-bay garage in the other thriving metropolis of Kitchener for a number of years. I've done parts. I sold vehicles for Forbes Motors. I'm very passionate about the industry, and I have my hands in anything that can help dealers, be better. And I'm really excited to be on the panel today.
Great, thank you so much. I could have sworn I saw Christine Mitchell sitting there doing a dance with another lady technician, so.
Christina and I have known each other for a very long time, so it's nice to see.
Hey,
that's
girl.
She's a very good friend of our show,
I know all
too.
these ladies. It's so good to see you all.
You know everybody.
We
And
have a
certainly-
Canadian group now called Canadian Women in Automotive. Just like Women in Automotive in the US, we now have a Canadian contingency called Canadian Women in Automotive.
Canadian Women in Automotive A. And last but definitely not least, Nicole from Cambridge Honda. And thank you. I believe your first time joining our show. So if you can say hello and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, it's so good to be here and to join all of you. Nice to see you, Christine. And yeah, I feel like a bit of a rare breed in the automotive industry. I am a female dealer principal at a single point dealership. I don't know which more is more unique.
Wow.
Being a woman in auto or being at a single point store. But I'm very excited to join you. I'm also a second generation dealer. So I'm a dealer kid. I don't feel too kiddish anymore. Unfortunately, I used to be young. But yeah, I grew up in this business, and then I decided that I wanted nothing to do with it, and I was going to go set my sights on big cities and big companies and have lots of fun and do all those kinds of things. And somehow I found myself back here, and I've been at this gig for 18 years now, and absolutely loving it, and still finding lots of opportunities and lots of challenges. So very happy to be here today.
Well, thank you so much. And it's very true. That's the rarity now of a single point dealership or a dealer's kid. I remember a lot of times, and I hate to say it, but many people, the non principals in the dealership world, it was DK, and that it was sort of light up there with other abbreviations. But now it's you get the first generation, or sometimes now the second generation, that the next generation doesn't want to take over, and there's a giant sponge out there saying how much. So thank you again. So we'll get right started here right away. Ladies, obviously this topic has become it's trending everywhere. There's seminars. We see it posted on LinkedIn. The Women in Automotive seminar hosted by Cox Automotive, hosted by, JD Power. And by the way, we should acknowledge JD Power passing away yesterday, which is a big thing in the car industry. But anyway, let's get positive. So it is trending everywhere. Is it just men feeling guilty about how things work, or is it genuine realization that women really are the power, which frankly, I've known my whole life? So first to answer that, let's get Jackie, because she's sitting there just dying to say something.
I'm just a happy person, so this is just my mood all the time. So I apologize if it's distracting. I'm a true, firm believer that the truth is that as a human, you can only control how you respond to change. And as a female in a male-dominated industry, one of the things that I see is a spectrum from we know you being here in automotive is the right way to feel right now, through women have always brought so much to the table in any career. And I've had those fluctuations throughout my 22 years working with this category. And it's my job to prove my value. So I need to make sure that my knowledge of the industry, my empathy levels toward my internal and external clients is high. I need to recognize individual needs, but also to make a quick, great decision when I need to. So we as women need to be the realization. We shouldn't be letting other people create that for us. I think we just need to lead by example and prove ourselves that, hard work is ingrained in our fiber and our being, and it's necessary, gender aside. So we're never going to be able to control that, what both sides of the spectrum that you're talking about here. We just need to be able to focus on what we bring to the table and prove those people wrong that are on the other side of the spectrum, that are kind of like, well, we have to do it now. We have to accept you into our lives. And I think that we're breaking through those ceilings all the time. I mean, everything that's going on in the United States, we have a female vice president now. So we are being able to prove ourselves on a different level. So glad to have that support as well.
Super. Yes, we have to acknowledge that. A female vice president. That's pretty good. Pretty soon you're going to take over the world.
Yeah. Well, me personally. No, I'm just kidding.
Cheryl, how about your opinion on this?
I've been very grateful to the auto industry. As you know, when I started, there really were no female technicians that I could look to or have as a mentor back then. I've got to say the opportunity and the ability to make your own path has been available, and I think, as you said, Jackie, it's your own internal drive. Like I'm always looking for solutions to a problem. You just want to focus and go forward. And sometimes it feels like, we say the women in the industry. I agree again with Jackie. We've been here for a long time, maybe not in all the roles, but I never ran across a point, there were times, like I remember one time I was working on a gentleman's car at the shop, and the gentleman that owned the shop, he said, well, I don't want her fixing my car. And he goes, well, unfortunately, it's her or no one. So we're not, so I saw that support. And that was 25 years ago, which I hate to admit. I'm like, Nicole, I think we're just experienced. We're not older, we're just experienced. But, that was there. That passion was there. My husband was a Honda dealer, and he tried hard to hire women. I think our next topic, as we get to the retention, is going to answer some questions there. But I think we've known for a long time that bringing women into any role helps with profitability. There's been a lot of studies about that. It helps us have an open mind to what the consumer is looking for. So I think we're just ready to, make it a little more broad, like speaking in the colleges years ago about, coming into trades in general, not just automotive. A lot of times it was just education and letting the parents know, what, there's a lot of really good careers in all these industries that, are typically male dominated. My littlest daughter, I have 4 daughters, my littlest one, when the vice president election was coming, she goes, well, isn't that a boy job? And I almost died. I'm like, you live with me. What? How, because we were talking about, do you want to be prime minister one day? And she's like, isn't that a boy job? I'm like, wow, we still have some work to do. But I think we're going in the right direction. There's a long answer to a short question, but yeah.
Well, I have to say that I agree with you. After all my years in the business, hiring women was the hardest thing, because a lot of women they wouldn't even apply for positions because that's a boy job. I've never heard that before, but that's a great one.
I was shocked.
And and then which we will deal with later in the show, is about the staying in the business. It's extremely tough. And I do have to say one thing when you talk about the female vice president in the States, etc. When you watch the debates, the women were the ones that post the best debating skills and put everybody, including the other women, back on their feet too. So, Nicole, how about your position there? Your answer to this one.
Well, I found it fascinating to listen to Jackie and Cheryl. A particular shout out to Cheryl, because I think the path of starting out in a skilled trade and being a female technician is just so unique in and of itself. But then to sort of go through a career path that's been so enriching and like unique, Cheryl, I think that's incredible. And one of the things that I really want to do as a dealer is find women who want to start a career in automotive, particularly in the shop. And it's a challenge. I mean, it's something that's only recently become a focus of mine. But wow, I don't want this to be a challenge for forever. And so I want to do my part and make those opportunities available for women if they want them. I feel a bit naive with this question. Maybe it's a point of just living and breathing in Cambridge, Ontario, and getting up and coming to work and going back home again. But I didn't even know that it was trending in the industry. I just, get up, do my job, love every minute of it, or most of them anyways, and then move on to the next thing. So I'm just sort of fascinated by the discussion, to be honest, that it is trending and that this is where we're at.
It's a great.
Thank you.
Ian. On the female technician thought process, and we had a number of HR people on past shows. One of the interesting thoughts on the female technician side from one of our guests was, well, she was amazed that when dealers hired female technicians, there were less swearing in the service side of the business. Because the males got embarrassed when they were swearing in front of the women and who were working on cars.
Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I can give guys a run for their money when it comes to swearing. I don't know that that's a gender-based thing. So
I thought that was interesting.
She'll hear me on the phone. She goes, "That was a work call, wasn't it?" Because sometimes we use colorful language to get the point across.
Well, I thought that was very interesting. But the other thing that was really interesting from strictly recruiting technicians in general, not specifically female technicians, we've had a gentleman on the show quite a few times, originally from Ireland. He does specifically helps dealers find technicians. That's definitely a different challenge. Absolutely.
I think trades in general, right, Ian? Like just trades.
Yeah.
Trades in general, and they have so much to offer, and that's one of my passions. But I agree.
Christine Mitchell commented too that in her class there were 63 guys and her when she learned to be a technician.
Trouble is, today has that changed, Christine, to any great extent?
It has to some degree, because when I was became a technician all those years ago, it was more about heavy lifting, and now most of the technicians spend all their time on a computer. And so as women, if you have great computer skills and you're interested in that, diagnostics and things of this nature, there's a lot more opportunity than just the brute strength that's involved. Now, sure, winter tire time, you're still going to have to lift some tires. But most of the vehicles are repaired through technology, diagnostics, and these types of things, rather than, a toolbox full of heavy wrenches that you had to drag from shop to shop to shop. So there's lots of opportunity. And to speak to young women at school level, like Nicole, you mentioned you were interested in what you can do. I know quite often that they're looking for guest speakers, and they're looking for people to come in and speak to high school students about opportunities in automotive, particularly in the skilled trades. So that might be something you might look at.
Yeah, I just have to make a comment about lifting tires. All you have to do is go to YouTube, and I can't remember the words you search, but I've seen so many on there, very small people taking tires for very large vehicles and bouncing them like basketballs, and 3 bounces, boom, they put it on the car. Sorry, Ian, go ahead, please.
Well, also, I had the opportunity years ago to train in a call center for an automotive dealer, and one of the women who was working in the call center part-time was a technician. And she would have people calling for service, and they didn't want to listen to her because she happened to be female, even though she was probably the most skilled person in the call center to answer the question. So I thought that was really strange, but another point of just, I think, a learning curve. What are the biggest challenges to female leadership in the retail auto industry today? Maybe we start with Nicole.
Yeah, I think there are some real challenges with for women in retail, in particular retail, and then maybe it extends to auto. But working in retail means that we're open 6 days a week, and morning, noon, and night are the hours. And so if you're raising a family and there isn't the same flexibility, I don't have folks on my team working from home right now. They're at work if they're working, and so it's a bit of it can be a challenge for females to both explore their career passions and then balance that with what they want to, what matters most to them in their life, with family, family, friends, whatever that is. It can be a challenge, absolutely, especially at certain stages of life. I think that it can be a particular challenge. I have 2 boys that are 8 and 9, and I know firsthand that it's a challenge, and yet every day I'm so thankful because I have the resources that I need to make it work, right? So I'm really lucky that I have the ability to have someone in my home when I'm at work to look after my boys. Not everybody has that, and especially when you're starting out. So it can be a real challenge.
Great points. Cheryl?
I would agree with Nicole. I mean, my life path, and I have daughters who have children, and generally now we're seeing females go and finish their education, which is amazing. But that puts you having babies at 30 to 32. And if I look at how my career went, I had my first baby at 19 and my last biological baby at 40, and my other 2 are adopted. So at 30, 32, I had a very supportive partner who took on the normal, what we would say, I guess, gender biasly, is that he looked after and made sure everything was good at home, because I was on an airplane all the time, and I was working with Honda and Chrysler then, so I was away, and that that conflict is, you have either perma mommy guilt every time you're gone, or you're pursuing your career. So when I look at my daughters now, she has two boys as well, so I know how busy that is. But she was 20, 25, 26. They talk about the missing rung. So if you think about, my other daughter is 27. She started in the car business at 16. Then she became a salesperson. Then she did F&I. And then all of a sudden, you're gone for 6 or 7 years when you're supposed to be learning these next things. So that missing rung, they talk about, Harvard Business Review did an article about it, is women fail to get that next promotion sometimes. So if you're ready to become a sales manager or a general manager, just the timing might be difficult. And it does take a team. Like, even for me right now, I have a team in my house that helps look after the children and the house and everything else that's going on. Without that, it's hard. When I was young, that was almost impossible. So it's a struggle, something that we need to address, I think, with flexibility, which is one of the good things about the pandemic, is we're learning we can do different hours, we can do things differently, we can do online. With Cummins, we're helping people do internet leads differently. So this might actually be a blessing in disguise, the whole COVID pandemic, in the end. I don't know.
Good answer. Jackie?
So I have a little bit of a different and similar perspective, being on the vendor side of the house and being with a third party provider and not really in a dealership daily. But the biggest change for me in automotive today is that although changes are always happening in the automotive industry, it's always been important to understand that at high volumes, it's constantly happening. But with the economic and political landscape right now, being able to look at the individual pieces of that, dissecting those, and then blowing it up to a 30,000-foot view to see how those changing items are affecting the auto industry and my clients is crucial. And it's so important to be done with innovative eyes, right? So we're always transforming what we're doing and what we're focusing on and what our clients are focused on. So the biggest change for me is helping clients understand, without my words being white noise, how do we help them get through the change with everything that's happening in automotive and the world, and having that foresight to see how the other aspects outside of the automotive industry can creep in and affect if we're not making changes quickly enough or helping our clients make those quickly enough. And similar to Nicole and Cheryl, at home, the change is so great because I was traveling a lot. I mean, a lot. I was on the road constantly traveling to clients. I have 13 states to cover, plus meetings around the country. Everyone got fine by when I was, got by along on their own fine when I was gone. And now that I'm here, it's like a blessing and a curse to be needed so much. We just became empty nesters to our youngest going off to college, and reimagining my role at home has been really difficult for me, because at times I can feel like, hey, I used to travel all the time and I might be forced to be here or kind of stuck in a rut at home. But I also love, like the other ladies say, like concentrating on, connecting with the children and education and things like that. It's allowing, this situation of being at home has allowed for positive change as well. So I can relate to both of you with the kids and the grandkids and, fostering those careers of our children. None of my kids are going into automotive. One's in aeronautics and one works in a doctor's office, but they want to be able to have opportunity to get promoted, especially my female, which is very exciting. So I think it's important to foster that, through change. Just make sure you're growing, make sure everyone's growing around you, and be that positive influence on them. So
Do you miss quiet hotel rooms as much as I do?
I so do. I was just saying that. My husband went away for the weekend snowmobiling with his buddies, and I was like, I haven't been alone in almost 10 months for an extended period of time. And I was so used to having my evenings, even working, but alone in a hotel room a lot. It's funny how much you miss that, but you also feel blessed to be around your family more. So it's constant change struggle here.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting you mentioned that because most of the stuff we hear about the traveling is, oh, it's alone in a hotel room at night and everything else. And then Cheryl and you, the two of you, came up with this great comment because, my background was always in dealerships. And when I did travel, it was always kind of fun. It was kind of like playing hooky. But so all of you, I'm shocked here because everybody I'm talking to, and Cheryl's always shocked me, and I've told her 5,200 times. She actually shouldn't be in the car business. She should be in a parenting company because it seems like there's a lot there. But you've all been in there a long time in the car business, and you didn't get there, because somebody just said, "Here you go." And frankly, Nicole, people referred to dealers' kids because they sometimes had a path to success. But frankly, these days, if you aren't good at what you do, you're going to get swallowed up. And so I'll actually start with you, Nicole. What is your personal key to success?
That's a great question. So yeah, I feel like just going back to how you positioned the question, I feel like I absolutely did get handed an opportunity that was unique and that maybe that was motivation for me to work even harder. And I think that was one of the keys to success because in the early days, I thought that I was going to be really good at this, and I wasn't. I really wasn't. And there were some people that were telling me that very clearly, and there was some good feedback that I needed to listen. But thankfully, I'm determined. I'm determined and persistent, and I was just convinced that at one point I would start to get it right, and it did start to come together for me. But I think part of the key to success for me is that I was handed this opportunity because it made me want to prove myself. And so when I wasn't very good, I had to be determined. And I always wanted to say, it's okay to generally speak, and maybe it's actually not okay to speak about dealer kids in this particular way, but I'm going to self select myself out of there, right? So when I had the opportunity to go to the States to attend the NADA school, I selected to be in the general manager with the general manager group. And that was interesting to some folks because they thought that I should be with the dealer kids, and I self-selected out. And so I think one of the keys to my success is just that I really wanted to prove myself and I really wanted to show up. But the other thing is, bit of a secret about me is that I don't love the car business as much as I love the people business. I really love people. And so the thing that has kept me going over 18 years is the fact that I just love working with my team and I love my customers. And so I think that would be the other part to it.
Wonderful, thank you. Actually, we're having a Good About the Car Industry show coming up in a month or two. We should ask you to attend because that'd be great. Because it actually is a nice thing to hear a nice positive comment about the topic of a dealer's kid. And even though, again, sometimes it's a negative one. So thank you. Great comment. Cheryl, your turn.
I honestly think what keeps me going is I don't handle no very well. I don't know. I joke with my dealers, like I love a problem and I love to come up with a creative solution. And, I worked in BDC, as you know, for a long time, Jeff. And I always kid around and say the only reason I'm someone you want to listen to is I have screwed up absolutely everything, to your point, Nicole, that I can prevent you from falling and skidding your knees the way I did. So I think I think the other part of my success truly is my team around me. I learned a long time ago. I joke around too that I went to rehab for entrepreneurs for about 9 years. And one of the things they taught me was if you're not great at it and it doesn't give you energy, delegate it and build that really strong team, whether it's in your own home or whether it's in your business team. Because I struggled for a long time to get better at things. Like that's why I'm not a technician anymore. I wasn't actually that good at it, to be fair. I don't have a detail-oriented personality profile, so you don't want me flying a plane, and you probably don't want me fixing your car. But I struggled to get better, and I did it. And then I used those skills to do something else. So adapting and really, finding the energy to do what you're great at every day. And if it's sucking the life out of you, let someone else do it. Like I don't do accounting, for example. That's probably the key to my success, and just knowing that no matter what, and I think growing up on the farm in Puslynch in the swamp, you learn this, no matter what, you can do it. You just have to find a way. I'm always talking about new strategies or adapting or being, outside the box. Just there is a way. You just got to keep on looking for it. So that would be my key, I think.
Terrific. It's the old-fashioned car dealer was the accountant, the technician, the salesperson, and everything else. And somebody got smart one day and said, "Yeah, let's not be jack of all trades." So, Jackie, how about your the secret to your success, other than all the stuff you talked about?
Listen, it's no secret, but the greatest secret to my success is my attitude. And I would say the second thing is agility. So every morning I make a choice to wake up, make an effort to smile, appreciate life. I shared with Ian, I'm a 2-time cancer survivor, and I wear that badge proudly now, although I didn't talk about it forever. But it just gives me that motivation to set the tone of positivity for my entire day. And I do that every single day. And there's days that it's harder than others, but those decision to do that starts everything else out. And then the ability to make decisions quickly. Agility is so important to me. I have 8 people that are on my sales team, but I also work with about 35 other people during any given day. And it might be a combination of 35 different people. So if you're confident in making choices, just get the best education you can about what you're doing, consult people quickly, and make those decisions. A lot of people don't understand the importance of agility because you might have 2 really great solutions in front of you. You might have 6 mediocre, and you might have 2 that are terrible. Your odds are great in every decision that you're making because you don't have to make the exact right one or it's the end of the game. I think people forget that and they take it so seriously in every little decision that they make. So just being agile, you'll get more done and you'll save more time and you'll just be more efficient and successful. I mean, even in dealerships, we look for service hour efficiency, right? So solve the problem, get your educated guess and move off of it quickly. And most times you'll make a great or the best decision that way. So agility and attitude, those are my 2.
Fantastic.
Terrific.
We were talking a little bit earlier about attrition in the industry. I don't know if we missed that question, but I'm going to throw it in here at this point. We've had a number of HR shows. We've had a number of HR professionals tell us that obviously retention in the auto industry is not good. But what really stuck with Jeff and I through these shows is that they said that the attrition for female employees in auto was even worse. And we've heard numbers as high as 90%. Now, we've all had a lot of discussions over the past, 9-10 months about this topic, including last week talking about investment in auto and how that might be able to drive not only attraction of female employees, but retain them. I was just curious as to if any of the women on the call have some thoughts here. So maybe we could start with Cheryl.
I actually have a lot of thought around this one. And I try to step back out of my own situation and look at, what happens when we're trying to attract female talent. I did recruiting for quite a while, and we had a training school for salespeople. One of the toughest things was hours because no matter what we'd like to say, we're still responsible for 70% of childcare, home stuff. It just happens to be that way. And I think we're working towards changing that. But I feel like this is our time to really make a difference because we can be adaptable. Look at us all. We would all be at a trade show right now. We'd be flying on an airplane. It would have sucked up a day and a half. We would have had to get our business seats pressed, and away we go. We were able to do this on the fly. My little girl was just in here before we started going, "What, I got to log on to French, mommy?" And I'm like, okay. So I think, especially now, if we can work with, partnerships, even if you can hire two women to do one role, if we can do virtual BDC internet leads, that's something that can be done. I know with the business I'm in now, we're coaching all virtually. We're holding people accountable virtually. I don't need to always have you physically there. So that could help with women in the industry. Being flexible, when you read some of the articles about profitability with women in leadership, that has to offset somewhere that, yes, we might need a little more time off when we've got to go pick up a sick child. I used to drag Tony to the dealership and she'd sit in the waiting area where I sold cars. My dealer was good with that. It's just do what it takes to support your female staff and all your staff, really. It doesn't even have to just be women, so that we can be the best we can at both home and work. And I think we're ready to do that. And I think a lot of us have gotten really creative. I'm excited about the virtual opportunity, like with video and communicating trades online and all those things. The tools are coming. So this, I think, is a good opportunity for us, and Nicole and her dealership and what we do, that we can really start to see more women attracted to this industry.
Nicole?
So I think one of the struggles I had really early on as a young leader in a dealership was that I had like unbelievable turnover, and I didn't want to work or create an environment where people didn't want to come to work and enjoy themselves, give their best, and feel good about their contributions. And so I needed to make some pretty well thought out changes. And as I started to implement some of those changes, um, I started to get a high performing, consistent team. And I think that some of the key things there were like understanding that people are people aren't employees, people are people. And when you can support them and show them flexibility for what matters most in their life so they can balance out their professional desires and their home life, then they're extremely loyal. And I've been really blessed with that over the last number of years. I look around, I look at my team, and some of my most of my longer term employees are women, and have maybe gone through several stages of life with a career here at this dealership. But it's a challenge. It's an absolute challenge, and it's something we need to, continue to look at and continue to address, because I think COVID has shown me anyways that this continues to be a challenge, just based on the fact that, I don't have people working at home right now. I have people working at the dealership, and we aren't set up for that. And what would that look like? And is that a possibility? And those are some of the things that we need to be thinking about. Yeah.
Thanks for that. Jackie?
I would have to agree that flexibility is the number one thing. If you have somebody that's going to be a fantastic performer who's a female, they're going to be driven to give as much as they receive. So if you give them a little bit of, rope, they're not typically going to hang themselves. They're going to use that and work around their commitments at home or family or whatnot. That's kind of a bad thing, that precedent that's been set over the years. And the other thing I think that any company of any size can do that's extremely valuable, I know it means a lot to a lot of employees that I've spoken to over the years, but creating long-term incentive programs. So what does it look like for someone who may have the opportunity right off the bat to map out their career path within your organization? And what does it look like if they perform well in their first year, can you offer them something 2, 3, 4 years down the line in the way of a monetary bonus or the ability to do something else, take on another role in the dealership? It could be anything. It could be a promotion. It could be cause marketing. It could be anything that you can agree on from your business plan up. But what do those long-term incentives look like if somebody stays with your company for 3, 4, or 5 years? Not just females, but how do you reward those people for staying with you? And that gives them incentive to work hard and to stay with your organization rather than jumping and going somewhere else.
Agree with that 100%. What came up on the call yesterday, and it seemed a little bit out of sorts to Jeff and I, but I guess it's because it's auto, was something like RSP or 401k contributions being offered maybe later in someone's tenure at a dealership to retain them. And I know it's a discussion most businesses have with employees probably when they start, but in auto, it seems to be not common. So that was kind of interesting and might be a good tool to retain employees, but more important to reward them. But also just asking the question, what would motivate this employee, to stay long term? So I think that's another thing, is just having that conversation, because each person may be different, especially if they're younger. The younger people today, I think, are motivated differently than people of my generation, not being from that generation, but seeing that. Thanks for all those answers. And I have another question here. What one thing still needs to happen before our business is representative of the real power in the industry, women, in your opinion? Let's start with Nicole.
Can you say that question again there, Ian?
Of course. What one thing still needs to happen before our business is representative of the real power in the industry, women, in your opinion?
That's such a tough question. I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that, but I think we're continuing to see more and more changes in the right direction, and we need to do this not just because it's the right thing to do, but from a business perspective, our industry, the number one influencer when it comes to buying a car is a female. So like, even if you don't want to get on board with this because it's like a nice thing to do and it's just the right thing that we should all do as humans, is see each other for the value that we can bring and embrace diversity, because you get a better outcome when you draw from different perspectives. From a business perspective, it just blows my mind that we're still having this conversation, because we know who's making the decisions on who's going to buy a car and when it's going to get serviced and where it's going to get serviced. And so we need reflective resources behind the scene working towards that.
100%.
I have to just pop in here. The people in training, the trainers always, one of the things they talk about when they're training salespeople is when somebody says, I have to talk to my wife, which is very true, because it's probably the number one objection we've ever heard. The objection we never hear, I have to talk to my husband.
Mine does complain I buy cars without asking or telling, or he's like, well, where did that come from? So maybe we should make this equal opportunity and ask the husbands.
Well, I have a friend who's in Italy, and he's in the auto business, a trainer and consultant. He did an article on LinkedIn a couple years ago now, and to see how disconnected the automotive manufacturers in that market are with the reality, the ads that they run to get people to buy cars are so disconnected with what's actually going on that it was shocking to me. I'm reading these ads, it was shocking.
I hate to say it, if this is indicative of stereotypical Italy, I know what the ads are like then.
One thing, if I could just weigh in on something really quick, is I find it interesting as we talk about the equality, and bear in mind that I am a huge supporter. I want my daughter to have every opportunity, and I love the car business. I'd love her to be in it. But as we talk about this, it's come up a couple of times where if my wife needs to absolutely go to work, I need to step up and look after our daughter. That means I need flexibility from my employer to be able to say, yes, that's no problem. You can take the day off because you have a sick daughter at home and not have to deal with that stereotypical, oh, you're the one staying home and your wife is going to work and her career is more important than yours. And so that has to be understood by everybody at the top level too, that as we go down the equality route, we can't have those traditional feelings when somebody says, I want to take a paternity leave. That has to be accepted on that side too. So it's a two-sided coin. If I'm representing the male gender and we're going to step up and help on all the other sides, that has to be accepted too. And there is definitely a different feeling right now if somebody said, "Hey, boss, I'm going to take a paternity leave." He's going to get grilled for it. Do you have to? Why you? All that stuff. So anyway, I just think it's an important thing that's also there, that's spoken about as well.
Sure.
I think Nicole spoke to that too. Like, we're people, and I understand we want to draw females into roles that, they didn't maybe feel they were able to do. I don't want to hear it's a girl job, but to your point, it is difficult the other way as well. Like, I think, we do have to focus on the human condition. And Nicole, I love hearing what you're saying. We just have to support each other. And I do believe that 9 out of 10 people are not going to take advantage of that. And to Jackie's point, we're going to work even harder because you supported us. Like, I would have done anything for the dealership I worked for, because I was, no question asked, if I had to bring my baby to work to sell a car. Everyone helped. The receptionist would rock. Like, we just did it. And, to this day, I respect that dealership and speak very highly of them and really give a lot of my start, credit to them. So I completely understand what you're saying too, Barry. And we have to be careful we don't go too far the other way. And I think, to Nicole's point, maybe just to support people in general, we need to have flexibility. Even one of my other leadership roles is I own restaurants. I think we were the next, career path that had the worst retention. Restaurants have worse hours than automotive, if you can believe that. And that was something we did too, is the 401ks, as you said, Ian, and benefits. Like, that doesn't exist in a lot of those roles, and just making sure we supported each other. So good point, Barry. I think that's true.
Jackie?
So I agree wholeheartedly with what you have all said. It is so important for us to bring eyeballs and focus to the women in automotive importance. But I always say everyone, males and females in our industry, need to continue to grow their support of women by promoting us to more senior leadership roles. Women need to take the initiative themselves to grow and go into dealer principal roles or entrepreneurial business ownership. Even if they feel like they own their own business, some of my salespeople feel like they own their own book of business because I give them the liberty to do so, and I give them ownership of that, and that empowerment is huge. But the I don't want awards for participation, but I do eventually want to be on stage more talking about automotive topics. Like, if I go to speak on a interview with somebody or a podcast, I might send out a list of 10 or 12 topics about which I speak. And I often get chosen a lot to speak about women in automotive, diversity and inclusion, things of that nature, more so than talking about automotive and helping dealer clients progress their business, or things that have to do with the industry as a whole and topics that are honed in on that. So I would love to have more eyeballs on both, and I'd love to have more opportunities to speak to both. So, I appreciate every opportunity to speak, but there's a little bit of a disparity there too, where we're speaking about female topics, but I want to speak about automotive topics. And maybe that's just for me, but I think we see that across the industry. We find ourselves speaking about how to attract, hire, retain, and help females. There should be more of a balance there as well.
That's awesome.
I do have to say that one thing that's popped into my mind in this discussion, and I can't remember which one of you ladies brought it up, but you talk about maternity leave, and Barry brought up paternity leave, which probably twigged something in my mind, especially in the sales side of the automotive industry in a dealership. Um, I can only imagine what would happen, the stereotypical dealer or manager, frankly, being approached with somebody saying, okay, I want to go on paternity leave, which is obviously paternity is much lower. What happens when they want to come back? Because the sales side of our industry we know is brutal. So, Cheryl, I saw you unmute. Please share.
I know, because I didn't take a maternity leave for either child. And you just brought that to my mind. Like, I felt like if I did, I would lose traction. So I brought them to work, and that's a really good point, Jeff. Like, Brendan's daughter right now is on maternity leave from the auto industry, and I go, oh my gosh, what if she misses this or that? So that's a really valid point. And same with paternity leave. Can you imagine if your general manager came and said, I'm taking 3 months off for paternity leave? What's our reaction going to be? To Barry's point, I'd be like, holy cow, the ship's going to sink. So that's a really, yeah, I don't even know the answer to that. But when you brought that up, I'm like, I didn't take one. You just go back at it.
Well, then, and Cheryl, to that point, in Canada, we actually have up to a year.
Mm-hmm.
So if your general manager decides that he wants to take paternity leave for a year, legally, yes, but what's that going to do to the career, to the dealership? It's going to be tossed. It's going to be in terrible shape.
It's like the unspoken rule. Like I have a business out in BC and was involved in one in New Brunswick, and we dealt with that, and sometimes they had 18 months, and it's a good thing. I mean, there's no higher calling or harder job than raising your child, especially when they're infants. But yeah, it really sets you back to think about.
It's a very true thing. And Cheryl, when you said the "oh my God" there line about the maternity leave and stuff, I got palpitations, because I remember myself, and at the time I had of course we had our kids. I'd been in a dealership for a long time, and they were almost like family. But even as close as they were, it wasn't my store, because I know if the owners kids had decided to do that, they would have found a way to make it work. Forgive me, Nicole. I don't mean to be snide about that. However, as an employee, what does somebody do? And I mean, I can only imagine what a woman goes through, because they've worked their butt off to get into a senior position in a dealership. And I mostly deal with dealerships, because the companies, the vendors, the suppliers, the OEMs are way far ahead of this. But if you can only imagine a lady as a sales manager or a general manager that's saying, first of all, there's certain things that go on where you can't just go back to work right away, not to mention your responsibilities. But the fear, when you said that, I could feel the fluttering here. It's really something.
Now, if I could just speak to that for a second, to Cheryl Lynn's point, like, I had to take maternity leave to get out of the shop, because there was no such thing as maternity coveralls. So that's the reason why I gave up my career as a technician. It's not because I didn't want to do that job anymore. I love turn and wrench.
I think you were better at it too, to be fair.
Right. I went and got a license. I invested all that time, money, education. But at the end of the day, when you find out you're expecting, and in that particular job, there's no such thing as maternity coveralls. You can't be around brake fluid. You can't lift tires. Even if you're bouncing them, as you said, it's just, so the reason I pivoted into the Car Lady Canada and started my own company was to be at home during the day with my own child. I had a love of automotive, but I couldn't go back to the shop. I couldn't do those hours. And so the Car Lady Canada gave me the opportunity I needed to be a full-time mom and stay in the business that I love.
So there's our retention problem, to Nicole's point. Yeah.
And we have a comment here from Sue Finneron, who's I personally know her, and how she can stand to the fact of being a lady car industry. You talked about this before, where being at the auction and seeing one woman at the auction with 550 men and standing her own there. But she made a comment of saying, having been in retail for 28 years and now being in training, she finds there's less women in the training side than 30 years ago. Interesting. We need to be looking for women in non-traditional ways. They're not applying. We need to recruit them, which I think is an exceptional point.
And Jeff, and since it's the time, we have 3 minutes left, just so you know.
Yes, 3 minutes. Well, just finally, we have our, on Fridays, select Fridays, we have our Vendor Speak product showcase, where last year we had one vendor came on, and we have some people here on board, such as Christine and Barry and John, that came on and spent their time with us, which we appreciate, and promoted themselves and their businesses. We are working on gathering 3 vendors per show on a new format, allowing them 10 minutes of uninterrupted promotion, so they don't have 1 hour of speaking. And please reach out to either Ian or myself, at Ian and Jeff at AutoHub Show, with any questions or anything.
Any final comments from Jeff or any of the guests?
Ian, Ian, how are you? Can
I'm
I just
good.
have one comment? How are you doing, buddy?
Good.
Good.
Go ahead.
I just want to mention something, Christine, my friend Christine Mitchell. How are you doing, Christine? You know, she said about, you know, the old way of doing business, you know, right now everything is turning into computers. Technician is spending more time on the computer than on the shop. What I see right now happening, and especially with digital retail coming, and the way we do business at the dealership is changing, big change happening. What my vision, what I see right now, especially I was in the States for a while training BDC people, and I found like 90% of people in the BDC room, they're ladies, right? And maybe just 10% men. So right now I can find that we agree that women have different skills than men, especially on the digital retail side, which on the phone, on the computer. So the change is happening for the next few years. You're going to see actually more women coming to the business and less men coming to the business, because women have more patience, they have different skills, better in the phone, better in the computer, right? So what I see right now with digital retail coming, we're going to see a huge shift in the business. And also I can see the business is going to be kind of more kind of easy for the woman to do it. Like she can stay at home, do business. She still can raise her kids. She can have the time. As Christine said, I get out of the business not because I don't like being in the shop, because I found I cannot balance my life between the shop and, you know, the kids. Something like this. I think one big mistake in the car business we've been doing for years and years, we always hire people, like as an example, as a sales guy. So we hire a lady and we hire a guy, and our expectation was, you know, she has to do the same job as the man doing the same job. As a manager, when I used to hire someone like a lady, I know my expectation is different than hiring a guy. I know maybe she's gonna be. Take an example. If I hire a service advisor, I know the woman at the sales at the desk. She's a soft seller. She can actually upsell more than a man, because people will listen to her. She's not pushy, right? And she's gonna be better. I know someone, when I ask a lady to do a follow-up phone call, she's gonna get me an appointment because she's not gonna be as a man. So there is different skills. That's my view as a manager when I was managing woman and man in the store. My expectation is different, because I know God created us this way. We are all different, and this is the beauty actually of our business. We're not the same. We don't have the same skills, and that's what makes it very successful. But my vision is our business is going to change. There is more chances for women to get in the car business than before, especially with digital retail, and it's going to be beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks. We're out of time. Thanks very much, everyone, for being on the show. Really appreciate it. Thanks very much for all the comments and feedback. And of course, look for the show live everywhere shortly.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Ladies, Jackie, Cheryl, Nicole, thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, ladies. Good to see you again.
Have a great week.
Nice to see you.
In a while. Send me a message.
Goodbye.